Okay, welcome everybody to the podcast. Today we have a great guest. I'm really honored to have Tyrone, the one of the masterminds behind IBE, and I believe World B-Boy Classic. Is that you as well?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Not, yeah.
So really honored to have you here, and I'm really excited to pick your brain about stuff and just hear your story too. So thanks for coming on.
No, I'm happy,
Yeah,
happy to do this, and feel honored to share my story. So yeah,
right
let's
on.
go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, so for anyone out there who might not know who you are, do you mind getting into a little bit about your history, how you got into dance, hip hop, whatever, during events?
Yeah, long time ago, but my name's Tyrone Van Der Meer, Van Der Meer in Dutch, because I'm from the Netherlands. I live in Rotterdam, and yeah, I don't even remember when I got into hip hop, but it's a long time ago. And got into everything and nothing, so to say, when I was young. You think you're doing it, but you're not doing it. I guess it was also the age that I was very young when I first got to notice it, and I didn't really understand what I was seeing. I was just getting some titles and names or all bits of information and from different people. It was actually my mother that once said, "Let's go downtown. There's a graffiti expo." Oh,
Really?
what? Yeah, but I was like 10 or 11 years old. I don't know what graffiti was. I was born in the 70s, so mid 70s. So in the mid 80s, I think I was introduced to the first commercial wave of hip hop. And so I was introduced to it when it was like a hype in the summer, or that's how I remember it, or watching TV. And everybody's a break dancer, even though they're doing popping or locking or as we said in Europe, electric boogie. But even that's also, the terminology is what you guys learn each other. We call the windmill the helicopter.
Really?
Yeah, when a head spin actually looks more like a helicopter,
Yeah.
but if nobody's ever saw a head spin before, you just call the windmill a helicopter. Anyway, but yeah, that was all through my childhood, and then when I moved to Rotterdam in the mid '90s, early '90s, is when I was more into understanding of hip hop and as a culture, as a form of expression. Uh, Also, because the things I liked was not what everybody around me liked. And I moved to Rotterdam in 1994, but I grew up on the east side of the Netherlands, bordering Germany.
Mm.
And it's like, I don't know, Wisconsin or, it's like countryside.
Right.
And then, the more I listened to hip hop, the more I started to see things and be aware of that. Oh, I like Eddie Murphy, but my classmates don't. You know what I mean? Or there's one other classmate who likes Eddie Murphy. You know,
Right.
so hip hop comes through you, not even through the culture itself, but even more, it manifests through what you see on TV. And then you see glimpse of black culture. Because when I grew up, there wasn't so much of like, black culture on television.
Hmm.
Yes, you would have to have your artist on a music TV show, or you would have to see a movie like Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy.
Big Eddie
Or
Murphy fan.
yeah. But you need to understand that in
Yeah.
Europe, the access what is access only is the what's most mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's Eddie Murphy, that's the Cosby Show, that is, and a lot of things that wasn't visible as, you know, that would be more of a display of the culture, only happened when things like MTV came around.
Mm.
You know, it was the case that in the Netherlands we didn't have commercial television. We only had national public TV. And then I think it took until 92, 94 that was first cable commercial TV.
Oh, really?
Yes, yes. We had more German channels than Dutch channels.
Huh.
Yeah. You know, back in the day, you had this like by antenna, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a certain, yeah, now it's all digital, but
Mm-hmm.
used to be different. So
Mm-hmm.
being close to the border and being close to Germany, Germany having like 4 or 5 public TV channels, we would get three out of the 5 public TV channels and only 2 Dutch TV channels.
Mm.
You know, later on, but throughout when we got closer to the 90s, things went really fast.
Mm.
And especially for me with you know MTV, a Dutch radio show, because at that time it was like, okay, you know what, on Monday there's this radio show on this channel, on Wednesday there is Yo MTV Raps, you know. So, and if you lock into all of it, then you get bit by bits by bits. Now it's 24/7. It's just out there.
Right.
That's not how, you know, how it was for us in the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know, through sports, through TV, music, entertainment, the culture comes to you, which I think is always been very helpful. Because from the start, you start understanding also when you're listening to hip hop music, you know, like just simple, but maybe for Americans or Canadians, but Mickey D's, yeah, it's like what is that? What do they mean, right?
Right. Yeah.
Not Mickey Mouse. And then you found out, you know, it's McDonald's, so it's the slang.
Yeah.
So you have to almost, you know, when you see Eddie Murphy, you will understand Tribe Called Quest, and vice versa, right? So, and then you take it all in, also because you're realizing, hey, I like this culture. This one other black kid in school also likes the culture, you know. So I really come from a time when, you know, you would sit on the train or go to school and be like, hey, he's wearing his caps sideways, or what's up?
Right.
You know,
you did a little nod. Yeah.
Recognition, you know,
Yeah.
hey. So that's what happened. I moved to Rotterdam. Of course, that meant a big deal for me towards like meeting more people, having more access to record stores, clothing,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So moving to a bigger city always helps, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then, that's when around 1998, I moved to a student house. And yeah, all my friends were doing something in hip hop. And I saw a Battle of the Year video, and I said, well, you know what? I want to go there. And everybody in the student house was like, yeah, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And I just took it on me to call a bus company. And from there, it's just started as, you know, organizing, and, you know, but it helps if you have a lot of friends that are also like, you know, we'll go with you. And so one thing, you know how it is, it goes, one thing leads to another. And
Right.
And then in 1998, the local local music stage called Nighttown, Rotterdam. Said, "Hey, are you the one that's doing all these bus trips to breaking and and we seeing Run DMC videos and it's like that with Cujo and everything, and you see, oh, that's the guy that we see on this and this video, oh, that's the Radiotron," because that's what happening. You go to Battle of the Year, and then you meet Easy Rock.
Right.
It's like, what? And he hands you a videotape. You meet Germans, you meet French people, and then that's when it really starts. So that's when you get more depth. Because before it's more like, oh, I saw that Tribe Called Quest is rapping about Jordans, and it's more like that. You what you see inspires you, but then when you go to events and you meet other people, it's like, it's so amazing to meet somebody all the way from France who has the same interest and the same passion for hip hop and the culture. And that's when it all started, man. That's when. So that's around 97,
right,
98. Yeah.
I'm always kind of curious, like what do you think it was that kind of like hooked you, that grabbed you about the culture, about the whole thing, the whole hip hop thing?
I don't know. I just think, like I said, identity.
Right.
Like I said, I learned about Black culture first. Whether it's watching Coming to America and the Cosby Show, but also, I don't know if you know Roots, the TV series.
Maybe I heard about it.
Kunta Kinte.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've heard
slavery
of that.
Story. Yeah,
right.
That was on Dutch TV. They're like, oh my God, these people look like me. And so I think it was identity. And of course, I saw George Michael on TV, or any other U2 or
right.
But that's just more like, oh, I like it,
Yeah.
Or I like the video, or I like the music, but not so much as identity, because it was so, at least for me, and also I think even in big cities where there's more people of color, it was still in the 80s and in the 90s, it was still the things that we liked, was still not so much out there. So when you find out that there's a I don't know, Lord Finesse album that you like, and then you see that you buy the CD or the record on vinyl, you start studying, and you see that, oh, sampled by Marvin Gaye, sampled by Marvin Gaye. And then you see Marvin Gaye in your dad's record collection, so that brings Lord Finesse into your house because your father has Marvin Gaye,
right? And
then your dad's like, well, what do you know about Marvin Gaye? You understand? Yeah. It's so much of identity, and then that's basically what it is. Where you almost feel like you belong, that okay, now it makes sense, or now it makes the way my when we come together with my Suriname Caribbean family, it kind of like feels more similar to what I see on TV or what I hear on rap records, and that's the main thing, yeah. So it's really weird, but I didn't just become a fan of hip hop.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was more of I became more aware how much of it was in me, surrounding me in my life already.
Right. Yeah, that's a really important thing, like finding identity, community, that kind of thing. Yeah. I think it's really important for everyone to find, right? It's
Well,
part of being human, right? We have this
oh,
need
but
to
well, there's
connect and stuff.
a lot of things that I became a fan of.
Mm,
I like American football a lot,
mhm,
but I was never born into it, so to say.
mhm,
You know, when my brother moved to US, I got into American football.
mhm,
So you can become, a fan and study and but literally to just grow into something, yeah, that I it feels more that I'm like I feel feels more blessed, so to say. You know what I
mm,
mean?
right.
Like because hip hop still I'm still doing hip hop and I'm still working in the context of hip hop culture, black culture, and then you feel like blessed, yeah, uh, since day one.
Right, right, right. Um, can you kind of take us through some of the earlier events that you were doing, or like kind of how you got into that side of things?
Yeah, it's by doing just doing what you think is right that you're doing,
Right.
right? Yeah, I don't know. I kind of like had I liked it to organize things.
Uh,
If it was my birthday, I'll make sure that there's turntables.
mm,
Uh, if that was I just like to organize.
mhm,
And yeah, so and at that time, like I said, it was still a lot of like it being exciting from overseas. We already know the identity. I already knew I like hip hop and I don't like heavy metal. You know, although I also played guitar and tried to play Nirvana on guitar, but I really liked hip hop. You know what I mean? And I like reggae also, but I really liked hip hop. And so when I found that I can actually do something in it, not just to be a consumer, you know, like listening to Nirvana, that's being a consumer and, play a little on the guitar, or listening to reggae music, that's more like consuming, listening, maybe a fan. But really, when I was in the student house was more like a student hip hop house. So there was graffiti writers, others were like, into music, DJing, and then it came more like, I wanna, what can I do? And of course, I was breaking a little bit, and I was doing graffiti writing and all that, rapping, But when I got to organize, simple bus trip led from doing another bus trip to Battle of the Year. And then this music stage asked me, like, hey, are you the guy that did it? Could you do a breaking event in Rotterdam? I was like, yeah, I'll do it because I know the guys that would want that too.
mm,
It's just that you people ask me to do it. So I won't refuse because, it's not like, oh no, I don't do these kind of things. It was more challenge to me, like, hey, yeah,
mhm,
like, and literally the first time I went to this music stage, which was basically your 90s rock podium, and they said, well, here's the phone. You can call on our expense. And I had one phone number, which was from Amigo from Flying Steps.
right.
And I called him and said, and I could speak German. So I called him and said, hey, what's up with Flying Steps? Other breaking crews. I'm in Rotterdam.
Mhm,
We're going to do an event. And yeah. And then these first years, it was really like almost like everybody that did something would come or, or they would basically present themselves to you, and you'd be like, "Where are you from?" And you came all the way. Yes, because I heard from him and he heard from them. Oh yeah, but I know them. You know, it's just like exciting, and that's what's like. Afterwards, now you understand, like, wow, that can be that in such a time you can be only once, you know, and although there was breaking in before, like I said, in the 80s, but that was more like a like a fade, like a hype that was on TV, and you need to do breaking, and you need to do, this is what you do, and this is a tutorial poster, or you had these records right on the back of the record. There was a poster inside the sleeve, and when you fold it, this is how you break dance, and there was those clocks, break dance record vinyl, and it's a clock.
Maybe I'm too young.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All those things, right? But then it's kindly straight a translation from the popularity it has on TV into your house. But then you buy the clock, and you get the poster with the tutorials, and you see your beat street, but that's not actually discovering it yourself. So, and I was way younger because I was like 10 years old in like mid 80s. But when it was mid 90s, I was like 18, 19, 20 years old. That's when you start meeting practitioners, others that are in this thing called beatboxing. And although beatboxing exists a long time and DJing exists for a long time, but the nice thing was that there was a kind of like a new wave going on. So although DJing existed for a long time, turntablism didn't. You know what I mean? Yes, scratching existed already, and there was techniques and championships. But when Q-Bird and turntablism and ITF competitions, that's the 90s, It's like a wave of like new creativity. So when we saw freestyle session, California breaking, or Canadian b-boys, and you see hollow backs and freezes and threads, and that's like from what you saw before that, spinning combo, head spin, long combo into turtle, back into head spin, back into windmill, taking your pants off, that's more like old style, what you've been knowing before that. But when somebody, and I went to Ballivier, and 1998, and Star Elements was breaking, and they were or was it 97? 97, yeah. Star Elements, 97.
So, yeah.
And they're doing a show, and their faces are painted. Years after I found out it was because of the movie, I forgot that movie, but they also have painted faces. And then they break to Metallica. It's like, what? They have Metallica in the show, and they're doing hollow backs and crazy moves and frettings, all new moves. It's like, why are you're breaking up moves,
Yeah.
Actually, more admiration for Star Elements as a crew, and the breaking that they did came when you saw their videos.
Yeah.
Like World Wars and Kaka, pubic hair, something like that.
Super weird, but yeah.
You see them that they can also do the long head spin and take their pants off, and you can see. So you know what I mean? That was
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We already like them for the crazy thing that they do,
but
now they can do it all,
Yeah.
And then you get so much drawn into it, and that was an accelerator for a lot of the events. So if you look at the first IBE posters, there is an actual ITF. There was two big DJ competitions, DMC and ITF. There was actually an ITF DJ competition at IBE.
The first one.
Yeah, or the second one.
Okay.
You know, it's just a sign of the times, you know, of at that time where we were as in hip hop, you know. And I think for people to even understand more is that because of the house music came up in the early 90s, raves, you know, the more techno trance sound.
Right.
Europe had a more hardcore take on US house,
right,
the Chicago house, and the Detroit and New York house, and that came to Europe through Ibiza, and then it became massive raves, and the music was hard, and of course we would go also, you know, but then it kind of made it put an end to all the popularization of hip hop before that. So all the all the hype I was talking about, you know, having your breakdance clock up on the wall,
right,
you know, having you know, the most like poppiest hip hop songs in the charts, right. Not NWA, but something else,
right.
You know, Fresh Prince, you know, not having this song, but Heavy D and the Boys, you know, although Heavy D was cool, but not that particular song. And then somebody in your school or in your family, hey, I like hip hop too. Heavy D is really good. I'm like, yeah, but you should listen to the other songs of the album, not that song, you know?
Yeah.
And so it kind of like pushed hip hop back into the underground, but made it, it gave it the laboratory it needed, you know what I mean?
Like
it gave it the time and space. And I think it happened all over. It happened in Canada, it happened in America. And what came out all of a sudden, that's why I think it's called the golden age of hip hop, the 90s, that it went like that.
Yeah.
And that, I think that boost, so that step back, and to give it that boost and to give things more meaning, your starting point has to be more in line with what the culture is. So, you know, I think we were also being forced there as hip hop heads, you know, because there was the outlets that you had before, although you didn't like it, that it was this Heavy D song or this Fresh Prince song, or it's still, you had your little bit of time on TV. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, fuck it. Because I'm going to Fat Beats now in Amsterdam. Nobody knows what Fat Beats is, but there's a Fat Beats in Amsterdam, and there's one in New York, and it's all import, and it's all underground artists, and they're all good. It makes you feel like, okay, cool, you know? And then little by little, you see that new, territory almost, you know, is being regained something. Now we have a rap program, but it's way better than everything before, you know. And it's called Your MTV Raps, and now it's this, and now it's that. Or that was also one in IBE, although it's called IBE, but you see the early IBEs, you see everything is there. Graffiti, rapping, and everybody at that time was like at some kind of like same level, although it's a different discipline. And years after, like, he became a famous rapper, she became a good designer, you know, such a, I call it, fertile ground. It's like,
right,
it's like so many talented people became something in the creative, did something creatively and got success for it.
Right.
Who were there, you know? it's really crazy that if I see old photos, like, oh yeah, he's now doing this, she's
Right.
doing that, they're doing this. Whereas I think before that was more of also like, yeah, he's in jail, he's doing something else now, you know. He stopped doing it, and I think, yeah, it's just nice, and that was the vibe. And when you would go to an event, and then yeah, everybody was, really practitioner, a student, of whatever they were doing,
Right.
rapping, DJing, breaking.
Yeah. In those early days, I think maybe when a lot of people think of IBE now, and if anyone's gone to it in more recent years, I guess, like you guys kind of take over a town, right? At least when I went, that's what it was like. It was like you took over a whole thing, a whole place, and it's like the whole place is IBE. But in those early days, was it like that?
Yeah.
It was.
No, yeah. So I said it kind of is and it kind of wasn't. It was so the location, the people that ask me to come do IBE or do something for the breakers after they heard about me organizing these bus trips to Germany, to France. They said that they would want a festival. So because they had this other festival, which was a music arts festival, and they were like, you know what, let's just do that. And at that time, in the Netherlands, there were multiple music venues doing like indoor festivals, or like start on Thursday and end on Sunday. And then this location, which is called Nighttown, which is now a Chinese supermarket, it had 3 rooms: a front cafe, and there was a basement, we call it the basement, and there was a main hall. So only 3 rooms. And then there was a not adjacent but pretty close, it's like a town square, and they give us the opportunity to use it. When you have 3 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, not even the Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 3 days from 12 to 11, because we couldn't get the after party. So from 12 to 11, which is still 11 hours, 3 rooms, and them being people from, cultural minded, understanding that there's way more than just the music alone or just the dance, pushing like, hey, what about the sneakers you guys do? What about the clothing and vinyl and records? Putting it all in there. So also, if you look at the early IBE timetables, you're going to see interview, you're going to see movie night, yoga workshop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from the start, from the first edition. It's only when that music venue closed in 2006. So we just did the IBE Korea, USA Korea edition, in 2005, and we wanted to go bigger, actually. I wanted to go find a new venue, and we were preparing IBE 2006, and the music venue went bankrupt. We closed it. So then we had to find a new location, and there was opportunities in Eindhoven, opportunities in Amsterdam, but then not really something that was like concrete. And we we got this phone call from some music art school director in this very, very south of Holland. And, he invited us. And basically, us is Mario B, uh, uh, that joined me in organizing IBE around 2002. So before that, 1998 to 2002, it was I working for the music stage, and all of the Rotterdam B-boys and B-girls and MCs, they would all help out. But from 2002, it was actually, I asked Mario, let's just, come be part of it. So we carried the burden with the two of us.
It's always nice to share that, right?
of being responsible for an hip hop event. But then he said, you go to the south of Holland and see what's up. And I went there and said, hey, where's your music venue? He said, yeah, we have a music venue, 300 people capacity. I'm like, nah, it's not going to work. What else, And that's when one thing led to another, that this music art school director would go to the local theater. He would even go to the city hall, entrance hall, and said, this is a place, it can hold 500 people. We're going to do it here. And what really helped for us moving to the south of Holland, to the city of Heerlen, is that you need to understand that people and things and organizations, they move out of there. Nothing goes from Amsterdam to that part of the country. We went the opposite direction of what mainly youth is doing. When they're there and they grow up, they want to get out of it. You know what I mean? It's like something goes from Los Angeles to North Dakota,
Right.
Why you want to do that? And that's what we did. And that's when, I don't know when you came, but that's when IBE, and even in the beginning, it kind of looked more like an indoor thing. And it was all over the city, but we would have only like a sneaker market outside, like a hip hop market. It was more like, oh, you need to go to this venue and that venue. Later on, that started to grow more, especially when, people know that we used to, do the All Battle Zone.
Yeah.
And there's people that know Rotterdam, that know Korea, USA, that know Team USA versus Germany from Rotterdam in club, then moving to Heerlen in this university, 3-story audience and everything. But even that got stopped because the music art school in 2013, it didn't go bankrupt, but as a city-funded organization, they had to do some cut downs in their budget. So they kind of said, look, IBE, it's nice, but we can't do it anymore. You need to go independent. And and we stopped doing the big school, the big high school. Also because it was too much of like, okay, you're using that funding and you're going inside that school, which is amazing, 2,500 people, but the visibility of you moving with everything to that high school, it doesn't contribute to the visibility and the openness of the festival. So in 2013, it was almost like end of story for IBE. But we could return under a new non-profit independent organization with a new directive of the city and the state funding, which said you need to do more about the openness. And that's when we started to do more with these kind of tents and out on the open squares of the city, and more cultural organizations, local organizations getting involved. And that's when it really became, and that grew until 2019. And yeah, we luckily got to do an edition this year again.
Hmm.
But yeah, now it's it's everywhere in
Yeah.
the city, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I came there in like 2016.
yeah,
And yeah, it
yeah,
was already like you said, there's
yeah,
outdoor
yeah,
tents and there was like lots of
yeah.
things going on all over the
Lots of things,
place, not just indoors.
you know.
Yeah, live bands, I think, and like people were
Mhm.
dancing all over the place, markets everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was a great time.
yeah, yeah. And although people see it as they always say, yeah, these big festivals, these, you know. But look, Bellevue is big, Crystal Session is big, IBE is big, R16 is big, massive, but they're all different,
Hmm.
you know. But they categorize it as such, you know.
Right.
Whereas I think we're still more of like a lot of small events making up one big event, you know.
Right.
Uh, and I think that's I think there's a lot to discover, you know, and I think people like it, and they also because when it's 3 days, you kind of feel like I have nowhere to go but here to be here, you know, and then people have time, and that's important, you know,
Hmm.
because I realize more and more that the value of what we're doing is not just sharing dance floor together, but actually also to see what's around the dance floor. You
Hmm.
know, that's where actually the conversations start.
Hmm.
You know, not just the physical conversation, but literally talking and sharing and finding out that somebody likes yoga or somebody is into whatever, you know, or making beats.
Yeah, or Eddie Murphy or something like
Or Eddie Murphy, you know, yeah,
that.
but
Right.
actually, then
Yeah.
where there's a room still like, oh, I didn't know about that,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and then yeah, I think because of the model that we have with so many stages and small areas, and people always come to IBE. I don't even know if they do the same, but I think it's pretty pointless of asking VC1 whether you can, you know, could do your footwork concept, you know,
Yeah.
or your little concrete battle, you know, or have a talk show
Hmm.
about something.
Hmm.
But at IBE, people can, and they, you know, they come to us and they ask, and which is good. And it actually led to, you know, when you came 2016, we were already on a point, on a level where it's like too much to program for just one or two persons.
Yeah.
Just Mario and myself. And also you at one point you get so many requests, and you realize that the culture is so rich.
Hmm.
You find out that there's a hip hop library in Finland. You find out that there's this hip hop movie film festival in Italy,
Hmm.
you know, and they know so much more about hip hop film, and the guys in Finland know so much more about books and literature on hip hop than that is actually you going into a modus where, okay, you know what? It's not on us. We just have to, our role now is just to be facilitate.
Hmm.
And it's not always easy because, you know, you need to do make phone calls and get into contact, and, you know, you don't know somebody, whether they're professional or they're not. But, you know, you take a chance, and that's how it comes about. And then, whereas before we were the ones coming up with Seven to Smoke or the longest b-boy move, you know, when everybody starts hopping on one hand when there's a break, you know, that's concepts that we came up with, you know, all
Hmm.
battles all as a concept. We did the freaks come out at night. You don't know that, right?
No.
That's if you have an IBE 2004 2005 DVD, there's a sections called "The Freaks Come Out at Night," that was the era of like, when you had Freak Show and all
Oh,
the
okay,
crazy
okay.
guys. And we said, you know what? These guys deserve a moment too. So we're gonna do in the nighttime basement. We put Metallica, we put the Prodigy on, and these guys can jump on their neck and jump on their arm and jump on their head, you know. One guy split his head open, had to go to the
Oh
hospital,
my God.
and just go crazy,
Mhm.
And then years and years later, you get things like we had a battle called Trucados, which is a box of tricks, and now there is Crash Fest, you know, and you understand like, oh yeah, because there's always young people that kind of have the similar passion or take on the dance. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And if people come up to me now and say, "Hey, we got this concept and we want to do it on concrete," yeah, you can say like, "Yeah, well, we did that before," yeah. Or you could be like, "Oh, that's dope,"
Mhm.
because probably they attracted to the same kind of like take on the culture and the history and yeah. And instead of us having to come up with these concepts ourselves, we can actually now have others, and most of the time much better. And now you get break down the house because Capella came to our office and he
Right.
said, "You know what, Tyrone, let's do something with house and breaking, or Crash Fest from the Ruggeds, uh, all these kind of, or the Havaianas battle. That's on the flip flops,
Is
uh,
it like they have to wear them?
they were in it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, we had so many Brazilians coming to IBE
Yeah.
every year and year out,
Yeah.
and then we were thinking like let's just have a Brazilian place. And Pelazinho is a very good friend of mine. He's really close with Lilu. So we did a mix of Brazil, street off Brazil vibe,
Mhm.
and what can we do? And we
Mhm.
came up with the flip flop battle. And everybody qualifies on normal shoes, and then the top eight has to battle each other on flip flops. And then you get people,
Yeah.
because it looks like you can break your foot, right? So
Yeah.
people sometimes get the flip flops thrown in the air, but others really can do it.
Mhm.
Dance
It'll.
on flip
Yeah.
flops, do power moves and hand hops and everything.
Yeah.
So that's how it continues.
Right.
And yeah, and in a way, it's not much of a difference with what we did where in the 90s,
Mhm.
where we would all come together and everybody was still like, trying to make something out of turntablism, trying to do something with beatboxing.
Mhm.
Now at IB, it still all comes together and people come with their ideas. And I guess it's a little bit more open now.
Mhm.
It used to be strictly breaking and all the ideas that we had in breaking. So we would sit down and finally have to talk about biting, and then there's a DJ talk show. But for how many years can you do that? Do we need to talk about biting every year? No,
Yeah.
you know. And all of a sudden, and that's the thing I see that nowadays youth is more capable of doing more things at the same time. You know what I mean? I think for myself and my friends in the 90s, we were pretty much on hip hop, on hip hop and nothing else. You know what I mean? DJing, yes. Uh, Clothing, yes. On
Yeah.
hip hop.
Yeah.
Now kids are like amazing breakers and amazing skateboarders.
Mm.
Or you find out that gaming, playing FIFA or
Yeah.
Madden or something, is like
Yeah.
what? And so there's more openness to having a dance hall competition
Right.
and a uh, Seven to Smoke b-boy battle at one event.
Mhm.
And I think what we're trying to do is that we also try to teach people, because sometimes people don't understand what is the whacking of IBE or why is there dance hall? Because they know the dance hall yeah, okay, you see it on YouTube and you see crazy stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, guys humping girls, and it looks like really, but that's not the full story.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you go way back, or if you study, you know that Cool Herc came from Jamaica and the sound systems,
Mm-hmm.
and that those sound systems actually are the reason that we have sound systems in hip hop.
Mm.
But not everybody came up with that. Like I said in the beginning, that's why it's kind of feels like blessed if you kind of like grew from that side of the culture into hip hop,
Mm.
rather than having to learn through hip hop. Oh yeah, but I never knew Kool Herc came from Jamaica, you know. So that's why, like I said in the beginning, and it now makes even more sense that we're so blessed to, to be coming up in 80s and 90s. And then yeah, Mario and myself being in hip hop for so long, being two men of color, you know, trying to get these connections, and show these connections at the festival also. And I think, yeah, we kind of like proud of that,
Mm-hmm.
that we can do it, and the amount of like diversity that we have in IBE,
Yeah.
not only in programming but also in people, also subjects that we talk about. Not to make it all political, but sometimes there is a real good talk show at IBE,
Mm-hmm.
about empowerment or the situation in the world, or a good one. Somebody came up, I think, in 2019 with a talk about burnouts, and people having a burnout, suffering a burnout, uh, and coming from the dance community.
Mm.
And then you think, well, this is a topic that people should go there, because on social media everybody's always vocal about a lot of things.
Right.
Well, we had another talk show at IBE about, is hip hop a safe place
Mm.
for women or for anybody? Is it
Mm.
a safe haven? Can we be who we want to be within hip hop? And then there's 5 people, because everybody's with Seven to Smoke. Everybody's
Yeah.
watching the Undisputed, and it's okay. At least those 5 people want to be there.
It's
And
true.
I'd rather have those 5 that want to be there than 30 people and half of them is like not paying attention, watching on his phone. How long is it going to take? Like you do now with your podcast. I'm speaking freely.
Mm.
You said doesn't really matter how long, how short, what you want to talk about, Tyrone, because it probably is not for the masses, but it is for those that really want, to listen and that
Mm-hmm.
have the interest.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of like feel the same.
Mm-hmm.
The 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 problem is sometimes that you come into situations where you're doing these things because they take place and we create incredible moments, and people just write somewhere, Ivy was whack, dead crowd. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, final is dead. And I'm like, 60 other programs. You're bitching about one. That one program defines the entire festival. And by the way, where were you?
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's the big point, right? It's
And
really
I
easy for people to complain online, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's uh, is I've come to I accept it,
Mm-hmm.
and probably, yeah, if you don't see it with your own eyes, nah, you can talk, you can say, and of course sometimes a lot of comments is it is, sometimes people are even right, you
Yeah, it's
know,
true.
but on what they saw,
Mm,
not as defining for the entire
that's
festival,
very true. Yeah.
you know.
I think that's a really big point that a lot of people, if you've never been to IBE, like you don't really get how much stuff is happening at the event. Like before I went, maybe I heard a little bit about like, oh yeah, there's like a house thing, but it's not really like it didn't really register. It was just like, oh yeah, there's like a breaking thing. There's a bunch of breaking events, and it's a festival, and that's all I kind of knew. And then I get there, and yeah, there's all these breaking things, but there's so many different kinds of breaking events. There was music, there was like I think experimental battle or something like that.
Mhm,
Maybe it
mhm,
had a
mhm.
different name, but I can't remember.
Yeah,
There was
yeah,
like a
I
house
can
and
imagine.
breaking mix. There was
Yeah,
I think there was a
yeah,
whacking battle. There was like all kinds of things, and it's just something that I think if you have a really open mind, and you don't just think like I'm here for breaking, 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 and you're here for culture or you're here for just appreciating dance, period, that kind of thing. Like there's so much to enjoy, and just
yeah,
you don't even have to be you don't even have to go enter these battles necessarily to really enjoy it. You can go around and just watch, and still it's a good time.
yeah, yeah.
And like you
It
said, the
is.
connections that you make too, meeting people, connecting with people.
Yeah, but it is kind of like that's what we try to do, and but some things is like when I was talking about the 90s and people would literally travel, not even participate, but just travel,
Mm.
just to be there
Hmm.
because it was something that they were practitioners of. And although they know they're not going to be on stage, they're going there
Yeah.
just to see somebody on stage do a. So I remember, and you must feel the same. B-boy jam, and then there's a announced turntablism show by Rock Raider or Qbert, 15-minute show, and then DJs and other turntablists would specially come to the B-boy event for the 10-minute show of that DJ.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or MCs would come because this freestyle battle or between two MCs would be a freestyle battle, and they would almost be on the side of the stage like, can I go on stage? If you have 5 minutes, give me the mic. I'll rock the mic for you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh, by the way, here's my mixtape, you know, and here's my card, like in the backpack, there's the mixers already in the backpack.
Right. They're ready to
Maybe
go.
he's DJing, but maybe he's not. You know that that is is a difficult one, man. And because the triggers are different. It the triggers are different. So and that's something that we struggle with because this year there was whacking and there was dancehall. There was no hip hop. There was no popping.
Hmm.
Oh, there's no popping. I'm not coming.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like only when there is popping on the flyer, you don't know what we're gonna do. But when there's popping, you're gonna go.
Hmm.
But when there's no popping on the flyer, you're not triggered.
Hmm.
And I think it has more to do not with us, but with the what's happening around the world as where we are with that there maybe is not enough cultural events or events where people have when they learn, it's like you go to an event not just to participate but to meet other people.
Hmm.
But maybe that's the way that you and Mario B and people that are of our generation and age, maybe that's our take on it, because maybe popping guy is learning popping in his house on YouTube. You know what I
Could be. Yeah.
mean? And maybe he's listening to 15 podcasts a day. He's in his 10 open groups, on different,
Mm-hmm.
But I do still see that when people come to IBE. So this year there was a girl from Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
So Little G asked me to come to his event. It's called Criollo Style, and it's always Criollo Style as a community event mixed with BC1. And I happened to DJ a little bit, so he asked me to DJ. And when I came in on the first day, he said, Tyrone, yeah, you picking the best dancer from the All Stars. I said, what? Yeah, just do it. I said, but you have judges. I said, yeah, but you have to pick somebody. I said, okay, I'll pick somebody. But then of course I go to the judge and say, look, help me out, pick the best dancer. And then we're gonna, because Lil G was like, we're gonna reward them a trip to IBE.
Ah, okay.
And so we picked a girl, and it's like, you didn't win because we didn't pick the winner, of course. We picked somebody else. The best dancer was this girl, I think 18, 19 years old, hip hop dancer. Said, you won. You're going to IBE, and crying. People in the audience are crying, And you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, there's no hip hop, I don't want to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just appreciation of it's, and maybe she didn't even know. She knows it as a break-in event, with Seven the Smokes and Undisputed, but still crying, I'm going. And then she came. And yes, okay, there wasn't the hip hop event, but she entered where she could enter, all styles, open your mind, whatever. Because participation is not only the prelim with number 25 on your chest. No, that participation is also being in the hotel, being with other people in front of the McDonald's, and meeting somebody, and that's the big benefit. But it's difficult. It's almost like people have to tell you, and then they have to be convincing, And luckily, I see people, sometimes they come to IBE, they bring gifts. And I'm like, why are you bringing me a gift? Oh, I'm so happy I'm here, because 2017 they couldn't go. In 18 they had issues. In 19 it was this, and then it's like one day, and Brazilians, so it's like Brazil, they're like, dia, one day, I'm gonna go there, and then they come.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, are we going to Brazil? No. Are we going to US? Sometimes, but it's these people from Reunion Island, from Senegal, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And I guess that brings me back to what we were talking about, identity. I think where they are from, and they look in and they see, the culture, and then where they from, maybe hip hop is not so predominantly the respected youth culture.
Right.
That they see identity, and then they're like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go there. But when I went to Brazil, I was like, damn, this is way more hip hop than I've ever experienced. You know what I mean? So that, and I hope that those exchanges, could be more, and could be happening more. Whereas us from first world countries would, because if you really want to experience that, what your your 360 sense of what hip hop culture is, black culture, which is also African, which is also Latin, then I can recommend to everybody just to make a trip to, whether it's Colombia or whether it's South Africa or whether it's, just to understand even more that. And I think that's why also a lot of these people like to come to IBE, because they have a moment in which they know those 3 days is going to be my answer. It's going to give me my answer. Like, yes, why, this is why I'm, all these things, that I love so much about the culture, I can find it there in one event.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes, like you said, people from these maybe like first world nations and stuff, it's really easy to take it for granted, like how easy it is for you to go to these events. And you can, maybe some people can even go to like multiple ones a year, right? And for some people, it's like that's their trip for like the next 5 years or 6 years or something like that, whatever it is. So it's like a big deal to a lot of people. And like you said,
crazy thing is the next year they're back.
But yeah, sometimes, yeah.
No, I don't know how they do it.
Yeah.
Actually, there's also some examples which is like pretty, it's like worrying. I wouldn't say sad, but worrying. People win a ticket or they find the money and then they don't go back. They burn their passport. For real.
Wow.
They basically, they're like, I'm staying. And then they're the ones doing street shows. They're the ones, taking every hustle that they can, whether it's in Spain, because in the summer it's still warm in Spain, or in Italy, and then in the summer, or in the winter it's still warm in Spain. They travel around. Some end up with the circus, some end up with some theater shows, traveling around, really hustling. And then there's first world kids, oh yeah, you should do more street shows, man, because that's what's real. No. These Venezuelan guys with -5 doing street shows in Vienna, that's real. That's not doing a street show because of keeping it real. That's just having to provide, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's also sometimes when they come to IBE, participate in everything, sometimes if it's even a wake-up call to the Western European kids, like, you see, you were moaning about the ticket price, but he's also, what are you going to do? You just, but in the end, it's all good, it's all good. Yeah, so I said that in the end, it's all good, and yes, it's where we're going, that is it's great that we can be the biggest community jam.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
It's mostly understood that a community jam is always small, at a youth center, crappy table with turntables on it, whoever's coming is coming. But I've learned that those events are also very, very important, even more important than having an IBE. I think, there will always be community events. There will always be small events, always be people who have a passion for a certain discipline or direction in hip hop.
Yeah.
Not always, it's always appreciated, because not everybody appreciated Freak Show as a b-boy crew. You know what I mean? But then you find out that there's guys looking up to Freak Show all over the world, and there's actually a movement, and there's odd ones in every country, and they form their own little society, and and that will never go, never.
It's really important to have that variety, big events and the small events, because small events like allow you to do different things that maybe a big event they can't do just because of the scale of it or the stakes of it. But and it'll attract different crowds. It'll get different people into it that might eventually go to these other bigger events and stuff like that. Those small events might grow into their own big events and find their own place within that, the freestyle sessions, the IBEs, the whatever. But yeah, it's all necessary. It's all needed.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It's very much necessary, and I think even it will always be necessary. But I think right now, whereas before a community center or just a project or facility that would do community events, it was also driven by just providing a place. Yeah, people always refer to it as platform, where where you could learn and meet and build your craft and get. But I think nowadays you can do that more on your own at home, like uh, listening tutorials, listening to podcasts, and I think that the role of like hip hop as like a hip hop community center or hip hop school is when it used to be like, oh yeah, you could do the four elements. We stand for the four elements, breaking, rapping, And nowadays, I would say it's much more like a center of development almost.
Yeah.
School doesn't even cut it, It's just much wider than just school, not even institute. More like, hey, you have issues because you have issues with the tax form. You feel you're not empowered by things. You know what I mean? You feel, I don't know, whatever. And I think a great example of that is the hip hop house in Rotterdam. Because we started in Rotterdam, we still have an office in Rotterdam. And Mario B and myself, we are in the hip hop house. The hip hop house of Rotterdam started as a place where you could learn through 25 courses, breaking, and then rap class, graffiti. And then it turns out, yeah, breaking you can learn in, is really fit to learn in the course. Beat makers and rappers rather stay in their house, you know what I mean? Because they need a bag of weed on the table and they get their inspiration at 2 a.m. You know what I mean? That's how it works, right? So that's what a lot of these hip hop spots find out, that they want to do everything, but then they find out, look, for graffiti or for rapping, it's other culture, it's other, and although it's family, as in a school type of thing, it's just, different. And there's not so much a rap class,
Yeah.
And maybe there is, but not on an advanced level. But if you could be a place, facility, school, so to say, for development, and the MC is going to go there because we're going to have a talk about record labels, about your professionalism, entrepreneurship, then it's not so much a place where, oh, there's no class today. No, no, it's more an open place for knowledge to find others, and I think in Rotterdam, the hip hop house is a very, very good example of that. The other day I saw them having Black Man Sundays. What? Yeah, it's all just black men, Caribbean, African, South American, all coming together. And yeah, one is a designer, one is a rapper, one is a filmmaker, other has no job, but they're all in one place.
Right.
In a place that understands that hip hop is just not hip hop. It's more of a life thing, cultural phenomenon, bigger than just the practicing of the art forms.
Right.
And yeah, that's something that I see also growing in IBE, And before I said, we did a talk show about is hip hop a safe place, and there was 3 people. I believe that in the next IBE or in the IBE's coming, it might be 20 people. Or if I invite the owner of Pata shoe store, shoe brand, to do his story, I think it's going to help you just as much in your breaking. Sounds weird, but it's going to help you in your breaking when you learn about how the founder of Pata created the Pata sneaker brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I'm a strong believer that, whatever you do, whether it's dancing or just anything that you do, there's all kinds of connections between these different things. And I think it hurts you if you think too, like, one-dimensional or like single-minded. Like, you can focus on stuff, but anything that you learn about this other culture or this like a business thing or this art form, even if it's just dance, like if you want to focus on breaking, but you learn a little bit of house, you learn a little bit of whacking, you learn a little bit of popping, that stuff's gonna like inform your breaking and improve it, right? And if you do stuff outside of that, like business and stuff, marketing, and then you apply that, say you want to be a professional dancer, like you bring that in. Like, just hearing you talk about the hip hop house, it reminds me of, I don't know if he still does it, but a guy in Toronto in Canada, he's from Mississauga, but Frost, he was doing this thing, I forget the name of the program, but it was kind of like he teaches like breaking and this kind of stuff, but it's like, how can you use that to do these other things that you might want to do? And a lot of the people that have started in that program, like one of the guys, he's an interviewer for Forbes magazine now, and like, or does like videos for them and stuff like that. Graphic designers, there's
it's amazing that there's so many things we do informal and just not thinking about it. One time there was this we were invited to do IBE Brazil by an organization that had nothing to do with breaking. Somebody told them, what you need to do is get these 2 guys from Holland and offer them an event and see what they can bring to Brazil. So I asked him, like, why did you invite me? He says, you don't even know. He said, you and Mario have this international event where people from all over the world want to go to, and you're 2 men of color. You know how much that out here means to people. I was like, I never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
I never thought about it like that. Yeah. Wow. Because it's so, the diversity in our event. When I do funding applications, people had to tell me, you write about it. I said, what? What do you mean? Yeah, well, it's not normal to having so many different cultures and backgrounds in one event. I said, but every breaking event's like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's also sometimes like you do it so automatically, um, that sometimes it's also like, you don't want to say, yeah, I do this for my people, I do this for them. It's just you're just doing it. But luckily, that's why I'm happy, like you said, that the more you are able to, take more of an outside view and see the world around you, like you said, with whether it's getting inspiration from, or listening, or to other people, or connecting, that's when it starts to work for you. Like, wow, understanding. But I'm like Frost, and like many other people, you do you need to have some years in,
Yeah.
you know, because for Frost to do a program like that, he had to. It's almost like a university study, He had to do that street college, so to say, street university, learn about research, and then for him and others to then translate that into programs, or you teach something, or whatever, I'm hearing now stories of people who applying codes in from hip hop, things that we do within hip hop culture, and they applying it to their business. And their business is not even about hip hop. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You could run a supermarket on the values of hip hop, on the way how you talk to your staff, how you do your meetings, you know what I mean? And then to find out that all of a sudden everybody's on point, everybody's working, you know, because you've learned through hip hop and through everything to
Yeah.
apply it now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's where we are now. You know, that's where we are now. That more and more people are open for it. Like, oh
Yeah.
shit, that's amazing, man.
Yeah. I think that's a really great point to, yeah, like even just thinking about what I'm doing right now. I started studying uh kind of like design stuff,
Yeah,
UX and
yeah.
design and things like that. And a lot of these things, when they're talking about the design process, and I'm like
Mm,
looking at all these steps, and I'm like, that's how I would practice if I'm like
yeah,
coming up for with trying to come up with a new move or combo or something. That's like maybe it was unconscious when I was doing it, but then seeing it all laid out, I was like, I was already doing that, and now it makes that stuff way easier because I already have all this experience with dance and creating, and creating shows and collaborating with people that can be applied to teams within whatever business you're doing or something like that. There's all kinds of overlaps that I think it takes. I think it takes people like some time to see that they've got to, like you said, have some years in them and get
mm,
more like life experience, I guess.
exactly.
Because
Yeah,
part of it too is like hip hop is a youth culture too, right?
yeah,
A lot of young people, and like in some ways, like I get why they're so focused on it because they can be, but a lot of older people, they're like, oh, I got to worry about a job or an education or this like family and things like that. But I think there's a lot that you can learn from
yeah.
you know
But as a learning place for learning and
hmm
developing
hmm
and experiencing, it is youth culture.
hmm
And to participate, you're already getting like, okay, you need a bit of more maturity. But to apply,
yeah.
it's it's about seniority. That's the years in. You understand what I
Yeah.
mean? That's the curve almost. That's
Yeah.
that's what makes it that you and myself, like 40 plus guys, can still, because we're applying now. You know what I mean? And but yo, I need to go.
Yeah, I
This
was just gonna ask.
is getting really interesting, but
Yeah, well, okay. So, uh, I know you've gotta head out now, so I think we're gonna cut it there.
Yeah.
And it was really great talk. We got into some really really good stuff, and let's
Yeah,
try.
maybe because it was more about the early years and how I got to this point.
Mhm.
And maybe if you in the future want to take it from this point
Yeah, for
on,
sure, for
then
sure.
we can do a part two.
Yeah, because yeah, it was you got into some really interesting stuff that I hope that people listening and watching, you got something out of that. Um,
No,
yeah,
all I can, I can just speak and
yeah,
see, people, like it, then it's okay. And if not,
yeah,
cool.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, thank you, Tyrone, for taking the
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah, and if you have any last things that you want to say before we head out.
No, no.
Okay. Well, yeah, thank you, Tyrone. Thank you, everybody, for watching
Thank
and
you,
listening.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a last words, thank you, Dean, and thank you for the opportunity. And
Yeah. All right. Well, everyone, thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
peace.